Maalab na pagbati Pilipinas, papalapit na ng papalapit ang 2022 national elections. Isa na namang hamon para sa mga mamamahayag at mamamayan na maging mapanuri sa gitna ng pangangampanya ng iba't ibang kandidato.
Tama. Para sa atin sa Alternative Media Mensch, no, ay talagang isang malaking undertaking ang aktibong i-cover ang elections dahil syempre nandyan ang iba't ibang klaseng atake na nararanasan natin, mapa cyber attacks man o literal na banta sa buhay.
Kahapon nga lang Neil, no, inalala natin ang ika-12 taon ng Ampatuan Massacre kung saan 58 katao kabilang ang 32 journalists ang pinaslang. Kung maaalala natin, nangyari ang Ampatuan Massacre habang papalapit ang 2010 national elections. Kaya naman bilang parte ng ating programa, tatalakayin natin kung ano ang pwede nating mapulot na mga aral mula sa deadliest attack on journalists in the world.
At bukod dyan, pag-uusapan din natin kung paano mas mapapaigting ang ating digital safety in this day and age of social media and the internet.
Ako si Mench Tilendo ng Bulatlat.
At ako si Neil Eco ng AlterMidya Network. Welcome sa unang parte ng AlterMidya Voters Education Project, safely covering the 2022 elections. Naka-live tayo ngayon sa iba't ibang pages ng alternative media outlets kabilang AlterMidya, Bulatlat. Live din tayo sa Twitter page ng AlterMidya, pati sa YouTube channel ng AlterMidya.
Tama ka dyan. And our event today was made possible through the collaboration of Bulatlat and AlterMidya Network together with the international media support. Ang Voters Education Project ng AlterMidya ay isang serye ng mga online at offline forums, screenings and coverage in relation to the coming 2022 elections. Makakasama natin ngayong araw ang ilang mga eksperto at batikan sa fields of journalism at information technology. So ngayon pa lang, para sa ating mga live viewers, mag-isip-isip na tayo ng ating mga tanong para sa ating guests mamaya dahil meron po tayong open forum part ng ating program.
Ngayon naman, para simulan ng ating event ngayong hapon, let's hear from AlterMidya's board member and host of Alab Analysis, Ma'am Inday Espina-Varona. Maalam na pagbati, Ma'am Inday.
Yes po.
Invite, no, bigay ng brief welcome remarks dito. Napakaganda, napakahalaga ng ating tatalakayin ngayong araw. Ito yung safety, no, ng journalist. Alam natin na sa ilalim ng the last 6 years ay 21 na ang namatay sa ating mga colleagues sa hanap buhay. 229 yung incidents ng threats and attacks against journalists according to the joint report ng CMFR and NUJP. I'm sure si JB mamaya mapag-usapan yan. Ang gusto ko lang sabihin is maraming nagsasabi na hindi nag-iisang dahilan ang factors kung bakit tumataas pa rin yung mga attacks on journalists. Number one, of course, nandyan yung ating inherent unjust political system, especially in the provinces, for example, where warlords tend to rule. And we know that warlords like to control communications as much as possible so they can retain their hold on power. Nandyan rin yung unjust system, work system within the media industry itself, no? Where there may be highly paid and well protected journalists in the national level, but there's also the preponderance as much as, I don't know, NUJP, I think, halos kalahati, no, of our colleagues in the industry work with very little benefits. Hindi lang yung mababang trabaho, sweldo. Minsan talaga, walang sweldo. Depende lang sa column inch o kung anong storya may bibigay nila. And then there are, of course, the largely volunteer-run media organizations, the new digital media organizations, nakasabay na dito yung AlterMidya. Ngayon, alam natin na people also say that ethics is a good way of improving the odds of getting out of a situation safely. And I wish I could say that that's true. Ethics is important, but that they do not necessarily have anything to do with whether you're safe or not. Kasi alam natin, especially in the last 6 years, ethics, professional standards has not saved journalists or news organizations from attacks, no, mula sa powers that be. And this is especially true with AlterMidya members and other small community outfits that brave the sometimes very dangerous landscape of local politics, especially now that we go towards the May 22 elections. Hindi ko sinasabi ito para na matakot tayong lahat. This is a fact of life. This is something we face daily. Pero kahit sinasabi ngang nakaharap tayo, no, sa mga dambuhala, ay hindi ito dapat nagiging dahilan para tayo maging kimik. And I am so glad that AlterMidya and also Rabi, thanks for IMS, no, for helping, for sponsoring this also. Maganda na makakuha tayo ng tips, no. Hindi man tayo lubusang maproproteksyonan sa ating gawain, maganda na meron tayong hawak, naggabay, no? Alam natin kung paano tayo nakikitungo sa isa't isa, ano mga dapat nating gawin, ano mga dapat nating hindi gawin para hindi tayo malagay sa panganib. But I think more than anything else, I'd like to stress that it is unity among journalists, whatever yung estado ng kanilang pinagtatrabahuan, ano man yung estado ng kanilang trabaho, saan man tayo nagtatrabaho, nangangailangan tayo nagkakaisa. I'm glad that AlterMidya is actually part now really fused and part of the bigger community of journalists, because I think that that really helps also in protecting its members. At this point, I think that we need to keep in mind that Frenchie of Eastern Vista remains in jail, and that we should probably reach out again to pataasin natin yung antas ng ating kampanya nang mapailabas na si Frenchie. Pero sa inyong lahat, maraming salamat sa pagdalo, maraming salamat IMS, maraming salamat AlterMidya. Naway sa susunod na mga buwan at mga taon ay magagawa natin na maayos ang trabaho natin, na hindi tayo natatamaan ng mga abusado sa ating lipunan. Maraming salamat po.
Maraming salamat, Ma'am Inday. Tunay nga no na lalo na ngayong papalapit na yung elections, no, media work becomes all the more important, no. Kasi syempre, di ba, kailangan malaman ng tao, dapat the people need to be informed with properly informed with which candidates ba yung best na makakapaglingkod sa mamamayan, hindi tulad ng ng gano'n. At thank you very much ulit, Ma'am Inday. At this point naman, may we introduce our first speakers for this afternoon, Sir JB Deveza and Kath Cortez. Ayan, they will be discussing our first topic, election coverage lessons from the Ampatuan Massacre. Sir JB is a former safety officer of NUJP Mindanao. He's a longtime community journalist based in Cagayan de Oro City and has worked as a correspondent of the Philippine Daily Inquirer and as an editor-in-chief of Sunstar Cagayan de Oro, a local paper. He now works as a project-based employee of ABS-CBN's Bayan Mo, Ipatrol Mo.
Also, one of our speakers para sa hapong ito, Neil, ay si Ma'am Kath. Siya ay mula naman sa Davao today, isa sa mga founding outfits ng AlterMidya Network. Siya rin ay former safety officer ng National Union of Journalists of the Philippines at kasalukuyang nanunungkulan bilang vice chairperson ng Union.
Magandang hapon po, Ma'am Kath at Sir JB.
Magandang hapon sa inyo at sa lahat.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone.
Start na ba tayo?
Yes po. Take it away po.
Okay, ako muna, no, then pag-uusapan natin konti yung safety issues in covering elections. And magkasunod yung, actually hinati namin ni Kath yung topic, no. So in the middle of this topic, this session, I will turn over the duties, no, to Kath. So let me just begin by saying that ano ba yung mga assumptions natin, no, na winasak nung Ampatuan Massacre, which we just commemorated yesterday, November 23, no? And marami actually mga safety issues, especially during elections, and it has been as long as there has been elections in the Philippines, I think it has always been risky. There has always been a certain degree of risk covering the elections, you know, especially nabanggit ni Ma'am Inday that Philippine politics is malaking bagay nito ay warlordism, no, private armies, and just bringing the news out there to the communities. May mga certain mga interest na nasasagasaan, especially during elections. So ang mga assumptions natin dati before nangyari yung Ampatuan Massacre, which was November 23, 2009, no? Before that, walang ganito kadaming journalist, no, sa buong mundo na namatay sa isang event. So this was considered the single biggest incident in the world na marami ang namatay na journalists and media workers, because it's not only journalists that put their lives in danger, but also yung mga kasama natin sa profesyon, no, yung katulad ng even in the case of the Ampatuan Massacre, may mga drivers na hire lang nung mga na andun lang na hire na. So but they are still considered media workers, no. So ang isang assumption na before that, no, was there is safety in numbers. No, we have always believed na especially us that mahilig well, it's been parang work for us, no, na to cover dangerous assignments. We have always sought parang we want to be to comfort ourselves that we will be safe, no. The more we are banding together, going to a certain place, numbers will keep us safe. But as we have seen, no, sa Ampatuan, that is not really the case, no. Pangalawa is that it is so safer to cover during daytime. Even yung kasi alam naman natin karamihan, well those that are evil deeds, no, usually happen at night or when yung nagsisimula na hindi na nakikita, no. So but we have always assumed that it is safe to cover by day, and this was also disproven by the Ampatuan Massacre, which happened during in the morning, no, in daytime. Pangatlo, siguro we all know that this is true even before the Ampatuan Massacre, but it was more so after the massacre. We know that state security agents are there to protect us, but we also know that these agents, state security agents, police, military, and other security agents of the state, no, can bring us harm actually, no. And in many cases, we also know that the police are somewhat controlled by local pols have control over the police, no. So, and just by looking at the the profiles of those accused in the Ampatuan massacre, makikita natin a great majority of those were state security agents. And now, especially after ngayon, no, meron pang mga extenuating circumstances na nakaka-apekto sa safety natin, no. Isa dito is that especially in the last 5 years, journalists and the media in general have been maligned, no. We are no longer looked upon by the community in the same manner as perhaps 20 years ago, no. A lot of especially in the last 5 years, no, we have been accused as being biased, being prostitutes, being bayaran, whatever, no. But the effect of all this is that all these accusations have affected us, no, has an effect in our safety. So, well, traditionally also, especially during elections, it peaks, no. Ang attack sa media peaks during elections because a number of the media within the media community also engage in proxy wars with local politicians, no? So but that is another topic, no. So we're here to talk about tips how can we cover the elections or any other event for that matter safely, no, because whether we like it or not, it is our job to cover and bring these stories to the light of day. So how do we cover safely? Actually, we will be using slides and modules from the safety training that is given by NUJP. I think we have been giving this for, well, at least for as long as I can remember, no? But ever since, in my case, since I became a safety officer in 2010, the safety training has been a staple in our the trainings that we offer to local and national media. So the slides I will share na lang, no. I will begin to share the slides, no. Andali lang. Well, may konting problema sa slides, no. I can share, but in the first case, in the first instance, is that it is always there is always a threat, no. There is always a threat in covering any event, not just elections, no. My threat, my opportunity, and if you like to think of it para ma-visualize natin, there is one circle that is the threat, the risks involved in covering, and then there is another circle that intersects with this circle that is the opportunity for coverage, no. So what we'd like to do as journalists is to minimize the risks involved in covering, no. How can we cover safely and get the story without risking our lives and those of our colleagues, no. So the mindset is always to increase the opportunity vis-a-vis the risk involved in coverage, no. So that is what you should look at when covering, no, when engaging in coverage, not just during elections but in other coverages as well. So the second slide supposedly shows that what are the how do you minimize the threat, no? You do not actually go to certain coverage without really getting to know kung ano yung pinapasukan natin, no? Alam naman natin yon, and we know that there are certain risks involved in covering, but we also know that there are people there that may help us. There are other journalists with us that can get the story. There are other actors in the community that are friendly to journalists, no? So in that sense, we can still get the story, and the threat will always be there, but at least we can avoid it. Okay, so the next would be, how do you avoid, what are the considerations that you bear in mind, no, before going to cover something, no? Alam natin that preparation really is key, no, to minimize risks. There are things that we should bring. We should prepare beforehand, like equipment. When we say equipment, having the right, if whether bringing a laptop would be safe, or using your phones. Ngayon, you can already write a story using just your phone, no? So bringing a laptop, that is a thing that is equipment that is very visible. Would it be safer if you just use another equipment that it will do the same thing, no? You can achieve the same thing, but will be less conspicuous. Would that is one thing to consider. So another thing that dapat pag-isipan is the protective equipment that we need, no? Especially in coverages na you expect. Halimbawa, there are these two warring rivals, no, that have a history of shooting it out, no? So do you just go there without a bulletproof vest or Kevlar helmet? Anyway, but that's one thing. If your outfit can provide, then it's better. But we also know that from our experience, especially community journalists, kadalasan sa atin walang mga access to these things, no? Like a bulletproof vest would cost upwards to 20,000 pesos. Na our outfits are just, are small outfits, small operations, can barely pay their staff. How can you, di ba, expect that outfit to afford equipments like this, no? But this is something that it's good to think about, and this is sana if we can insist, it's good to assert this actually it's a right, no, to this equipment, kasi it helps us, it protects our lives, no? Pangatlo is very simple. It's not expensive. You can buy it in a regular drugstore. A first aid kit, no? Most of us nakakalimutan natin itong magdala even first aid kit, no? A thing as simple as bandage, band-aid, things like that, no? But you never know, no? You may need it in kahit lang hindi ka inatake, nadapa ka sa coverage dahil sa pagtakbo mo, di ba? It's good to have a first aid kit in your in your bag, no? Pangatlo, pang-apat is means of communication. Meron kang cellphone but you have no load. Paano ngayon yan kung you have to contact your editor, for instance, or your family member to tell them that you will be delayed in coming home. So it's good to have this. It's good to have this, no? To bear this in mind na huwag kalimutan na bumili ng load, no? Or to charge your cell phones before a coverage, no? Last, ito yung manner of dressing, no? Manner of dressing. If you are, for instance, going to a place like Marawi, for instance, are you going to go there in shorts? You know, if you are woman journalist, are you going to go there in short pants or neglect having itong kumbong or no? So you have to be aware of the local customs that kasi you know how we dress up, our attire can also can elicit certain reactions from people around us. So be aware that of how you dress, no? To dress appropriately and to wag kang mag balat na sapatos or whatever, no? Wear something that you can something comfortable that you can run, you can, di ba? So those things, no? So ito yung mga example, no, that things that we usually neglect, no, during coverage. These are the things that karamihan sa atin, we just get our phones, we get our laptops, cameras, and that's it, no? But you have to we have to realize that being prepared and having a contingency plan, especially in covering difficult situations, is in the end it may save us, no? So these are the things, no? Body armor, baka may nagtataka sa inyo dyan, hindi kayo nagsisigarilyo but there's a cigarette. Kasi itong cigarette, maganda itong, we know that it calms, no? It calms people down, no? So magandang meron kang mai-offer sa sundalo, for instance, or whoever, kung mataas na yung tension, no? So magandang pag-isipan itong mga bagay na to. Water bottle, water tablets, if there is no potable water, and other things like raincoat, everything. Now, ang susunod na slide, no, I will take turn over to Kath for her to continue the. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Kuya JP. So I will be continuing the discussion, no? Punta tayo sa vehicles. Of course, with the experience of the alternative press, lalo na sa atin, hindi naman lahat ay meron talagang crew cabs or vehicles. But if meron tayo, ito yung mga pwedeng considerations. By the way, after this presentation, meron din akong mga dagdag na points, no, na pwede nating i-consider sa pag-cover ng election based naman doon sa experience namin sa Davao today and as alternative media based in Mindanao. So yeah, balik tayo sa vehicles. Isa sa mga consideration talaga yung halimbawa sa nakapwesto yung sasakyan ninyo during the coverage, ano, kung doon ba dapat ipwesto yung sasakyan sa mismong lugar kung saan tayo magko-cover, or we should find a place na mabilis siya for exit and entrance ng vehicle, no? At ano yung pinaka fastest route na pwede nating i-take, yung sasakyan ba ay mabilis na makapag-maneuver. Isa sa mga consideration din na dapat tignan, necessary ba yung paglagay ng logo sa mga sasakyan, or kailangang ito ay on plain plain color. Dapat din i-check, no, bago tayo mag-cover yung syempre yung mga basics like yung tire, yung gasoline, yung brake. Isa yan sa mga kailangan nating i-consider kapag tayo ay nag-cover ng election. Of course, hindi naman lahat ng areas sa Pilipinas na i-cover natin ay medyo hostile yung environment. But of course, kailangan din nating i-consider na hindi sa lahat ng panahon ay payapa yung ating coverage. So, kailangan kasama dyan sa consideration yung sasakyan. Pag sinabi din nating sasakyan, we also consider the driver of the vehicle. Meron ba siyang kumpletong papeles, no? Like his license, siya ba ay marunong talagang mag-drive, or baka nag-uumpisa lang, siya ba ay oriented din sa kung ano yung dadatnan sa lugar, alam niya ba yung mga pasikot-sikot, at alam niya ba kung ano yung dapat gawin kapag meron tayong na-sense na halimbawa gulo, no, while doing the coverage. So kailangan yan pag-usapan sa newsroom bago tayo mag-deploy ng ating mga kasamahan, no, sa pag-cover ng election. Aside from that, also yung ating driver should be magsilbing lookout, no, sa areas kung saan tayo pupunta. Hindi pwede na hindi kasama ang driver dun sa ating orientation or sa ating briefing, sapagkat of course as a warm body, no, during the coverage, sila yung may mas mabilis na mata, no, na nakakakita ng hindi nakikita nung halimbawa team leader ng team. Kadalasan sa mga drivers tumatambayan sa mga tindahan, so nakakakuha din sila ng mga information na hindi nakukuha ng team while doing the interview or while taking pictures or photos. So magandang masama yung driver din ng vehicle dun sa orientation. Ano ba yung kanyang magiging papel aside from being the driver sa coverage team. Second, of course, yung documents, no? Importante talaga ito, lalong-lalo na sa atin sa alternative press, kasi merong dilema kapag nagko-cover tayo or nagpapakilala tayo bilang media. Now, for example, itong case ng Panay Today, no, na I think sina JI ito, meron talagang confusion, are they media or are they members of like progressive organization? So mahalaga na kapag tayo po ay nagko-cover, kailangan i-kumpleto din yung ating documents to of course para i-prove yung ating legitimacy as a news gatherer, no? Importante na meron tayong ID na nagpapakilala kung anong news outfit tayo, no? Ito ay suot-suot natin. Kung kinakailangan na magkaroon tayo ng endorsement letter mula sa desk, no? Or communication letter to halimbawa to the barangay captain para kami po ay mag-cover at mag-interview dito sa lugar. Kasi may mga experiences tayo na hindi pinapapasok yung media kapag wala silang documents from the PNP or from the COMELEC. So mas mainam na before tayo magkasa or pumunta sa isang coverage ay meron tayo mga ganitong supporting documents kung kinakailangan. Importante din siguro, no, sa dokumento yung hindi lamang yung tawag nito, yung ID at saka endorsement letter, but also if we are going to interview, for example, yung mga politiko, no, yung mga political parties, ay makapagpadala ng communication letter sa kanila na tayo ay gustong mag-interview if it is necessary. Next one is the research. Ito din ay importante na gawin bago sumalang sa anumang coverage, hindi lamang sa election. But for election also, we urge you to do, of course, research, hindi lang sa isang grupo, kundi sa kung ano man yung dadatnan natin doon, kung 2 partido ba, 3 partido, ano yung kanilang mga strength doon sa area. For example, meron ba silang goons? Gaano ba kalawak yung kanilang supporters sa lugar? Kung halimbawa papasok ka ng isang area, ito ba ay solid sa ganitong klaseng political party or sa isang kandidato? So ano din yung mga risk na pwede nating datnan doon sa lugar, ano. Syempre, tinuturo din kasi sa safety ng journalist yung pag-consider sa iba't ibang klase ng risk. Hindi lamang doon sa usapin ng dahil hostile ito, malamang na armado yung mga supporters ng mga kandidato. Pwede din nating isaalang-alang doon sa ating consideration yung halimbawa diseases, like meron bang outbreak doon sa lugar o dahil pandemic, gaano ba kataas yung kaso ng halimbawa COVID sa area na ito. Ito ay para makapaghanda din, no, yung news team na pupunta doon ng mga necessary personal protective equipments, no, gaya ng mask, ng gloves, kung kailangan ba nila ng ano pa yung alcohol na pwedeng dalhin sa lugar. Isa ding mainam na gawin sa research is to know kung saan yung mga safe routes na pwede nating daanan, lalo na kung magkakaroon ng hindi natin inaasahan na gulo, no, during our coverage, or medyo alanganin yung ating safety sa lugar while nandoon tayo sa halimbawa isang barangay na i-cover natin. And also to identify safe havens. Halimbawa, pwede nating i-identify dito yung mga kaibigan natin, kung meron tayong kaibigan na mga church pastors or yung mga pare, mga madre, pwede dating i-identify kung ano yung pinakamalapit na mga safe havens. Meron ba dito mga kilala natin na mga lawyers sa lugar, as well as kung nasa malapit ba yung hospital, police station if necessary, at kung ano pa, no, na pwede nating takbuhan kapag nalagay sa alanganin yung ating coverage. Of course, pinaka-importante din na magkaroon tayo ng contingency plan, no? Ito ay ginagawa hindi lamang or pinag-usapan hindi lamang sa team na kung na ipapadala sa lugar kung saan magko-cover ang halimbawa ang inyong news outfit. Kahit doon sa mga nasa newsroom, kailangan din na magkaroon ng contingency plan kapag nalagay sa alanganin yung safety ng ating team na nagko-cover sa area. So ano yung mga pwedeng consideration? Sino ba yung nakakaalam kung nasaan kayo? Ito ba ay halimbawa inyong asawa or anak or yung mga best friend ninyo? Syempre yung newsroom kung saan kayo. Ano yung pwedeng mangyari habang nandun kayo? So dapat pwede na ninyong ilista yon, no, para magawa ng makonsider at mapag-usapan. Ano yung pwedeng mangyari doon sa halimbawa pagkausap nyo kay ganitong politiko tapos na-identify kayo na uy, ito pala sila ay from alternative media, medyo critical ito mag-report compare sa mainstream. So pwedeng gawin niyang mga consideration. Also, ano yung backup plan na pwede ninyong gawin? Saan kayo tatakbo? Yung kanina, yung sa communication, for example, ano ba yung backup natin? Halimbawa, hindi lang actually hostile, but nagkakaroon din tayo ng problema sa pag-transmit, for example, ng ating mga materials like videos, photos, habang nandun tayo if need natin mag-breaking news. So, ano yung backup plan natin kapag hindi gumagana yung Wi-Fi or kung hindi gumagana yung smartphone? So, kailangan kasama yun sa magiging consideration. Of course, contingency plan also involves yung inyong knowledge kung saan area kayo papunta. Ibig sabihin, although narinig nyo na ganitong area yung pupuntahan namin, gaano nyo kaalam yung background ng lugar? So, kasama dyan yung safe haven sa sinasabi kanina, at saan nakaposisyon yung inyong mga sasakyan at ang inyong driver. So ibig sabihin kahit yung signal na ng parang signal ninyo between you and the driver, kailangan pag-usapan, no? Pagka ma'am, tinaas ko yung aking kamay ay ibig sabihin paalis na tayo niyan, or kapag ma'am umubo ako, ibig sabihin kailangan na natin umalis. So kailangan pag-usapan yan with of course kung tawag niyan sa contingency planning. Aside from this, yung sabi ko kanina, meron din pong mga learnings kami, no, sa Davao Today dun sa usapin ng electoral coverage, no. For a while din, since 2013 ay nag-start na din ako nag-cover. So parang maganda ding ma-discuss, no, yung halimbawa situational awareness, no. For example, although kanina sinabi ko na yung halimbawa we should try to research halimbawa the political clans or the conflict yung existing in the region. We also in situational awareness, we also try to avoid yung routine and yung change of route, daily routes na gagawin natin while kung halimbawa we're doing a coverage. Kailangan natin na if you're covering a major protest halimbawa ng isang political clan, no, or halimbawa magsu-survey tayo sa area, kailangan natin na we know also kung ano yung kayang gawin ng mga politiko at supporters nila habang nandun tayo sa area. Kailangan nating kailangan din natin malaman, no, kung yung where we stay ay safe ba for both clans if ever may existing two clans na nag-aaway sa lugar, or is it safe for us kahit na wala namang tayong kinikilingan doon sa lugar. Also, try to consider yung mga secured apps and social media accounts na pwede nating gamitin while we're there. Dun sa sinasabi ko kanina na communication, sabi ni Kuya din na communication, it's better to use different accounts, no, for your public and private life. For example, lalong-lalo na doon sa pagpapadala ng mga materials, we try to halimbawa use different phases, no, para sa pag-store at pagpapadala ng ating mga materials. Kasi pwede tayo, for example, nung aking experience sa Marawi na the military tried to kuhanin yung aking camera while covering itong pagbabalik ng mga Maranao sa Ground Zero. Meron tendency na kunin yung memory card at wala na akong copy. So as much as possible, meron tayong halimbawa dummy SD card na may mga pictures, or kung tayo ay gumagamit ng mga applications ay kailangan madaming apps tayong pwedeng pag-savean ng ating mga files. Also, we also try to consider anong equipment and data na dadalhin. For example, sa equipment, may mga areas, halimbawa dito sa Mindanao, na medyo alarmed sila sa malalaking camera because they thought na baka baril, no? So, dun sa research na gagawin natin, pwede din natin talagang i-consider din yung community trauma, no? Lalong-lalo na dun sa mga areas na harassed or merong experience na hindi maganda, lalong-lalo na sa halimbawa merong gulo between military or the New People's Army. Ayun. Siguro yung last two, important din na for covering election, meron din tayong stress management. Of course, yung covering election kasi is an intense and stressful job. Lalong-lalo na kapag nasa voting and counting times na. So, doon siguro sa consideration, lalong-lalo na sa halimbawa, mga nasa newsroom habang pinaplano pa yung coverage, ay yung pagtuturo ng stress management and anxiety techniques, no? Halimbawa, meditation, para to assess no yung reducing ng mga effects ng na nasasagap natin while doing the coverage. Stress management also ensures yung tawag nito sleeping and eating habits natin while doing our job, no? From different networks, isa to sa mga tinuturo nila because mas madali yung paggalaw ng mga reporters natin na pinapadala sa field pagka less yung stress na experience nila while doing the coverage. Also, isa sa mga naituro din actually ng safety training nila Kuya JB, itong interactions with, of course, mainstream journals, no? Or yung mga tinatawag din na, halimbawa, yung mga stringers, or kung sino yung mga nasa local na journalist. Maganda na magkaroon ng friendly relationship with them because nakakakuha tayo ng dagdag na information kapag meron tayong mga kilala sa local na mga journals or sa mga mainstream. Pwede din tayong actually makipag-interact with security forces, but we need to remain neutral and avoid confrontation with them as much as possible. Kasi even dun sa security forces, meron tayong mga advantages kapag medyo hindi naman antagonistic yung ating approach sa kanila because of course since they are there to secure the area, marami din silang pwedeng maibigay sa atin. Hindi isang magandang aral dito sa interaction yung hindi kakailangan na move side by side, no? Ibig sabihin hindi ka kailangan patalon-talon yung one moment kasama mo yung mga police at military, one moment dito ka sa isang grupo ng mga supporters ng ganitong kandidato, tapos sa sunod na naman ay dito sa isa na namang kandidato. Kailangang basahin talaga yan, no, ng team na pupunta sa area kung papaano ba yung galaw kasi mahirap maipit sa gulo, no, ng mga nag-aaway ng mga kandidato. Yun, and then after of course, kailangan mag-debriefing kasi maraming pagkakataon na yung ating mga kasamahan, lalo na sa alternative press, ay nawawala ng pagkakataong mag-debrief pagkatapos ng kanilang field pagkalap ng story sa field, no? Isa to sa mga nakakaligtaan lagi no, ng ating mga desk na kasama doon sa coverage planning actually yung pag-debrief at pag-relax pagkatapos ng isang mahabang araw sa ating trabaho.
Alright, thank you very much Sir JB at Ma'am Kath para sa very insightful na discussion at election coverage lessons na mapupulot natin mula sa Ampatuan Massacre. Actually, very siksik, no? Yung naging discussion, yung presentation ng ating mga speakers. At actually ako para akong bumalik sa masscom lessons ko nung college days. At ano siya, reiteration at reminder sa ating mga media practitioners ngayon, no? Kung paano yung tamang treat natin sa ating safety na hindi dapat natin siya dinidisregard at maraming facets yung safety ng mga journalists, especially now at a time na tumitindi yung crackdown sa ating mga media practitioners. Ikaw ba, Neil, ano ba yung may share mo na experience no sa coverage recently?
Actually, ang galing nga kasi yung diniscuss ni Sir JB at ni Ma'am Kath. Applicable din siya outside covering elections, no? Sa usapin ng preparations, contingency plans, the general planning of a whole coverage, no? Kasi from personal experience, no, pag pumupunta-punta sa mga communities, sa ibang provinces, sa ibang regions, no, na kailangan talaga may pagpaplano, masusing pagpaplano beforehand bago ka pumunta. At kung habang nandun na ay siguraduhing ligtas ang ano, kasi for example, isang beses nakapunta ako sa DDPU na Vizcaya kung saan may open pit mining doon, yung isang korporasyon na doon pagdating namin ay halos hindi kami palabasin ng community kasi baka daw ma-attract yung mga pulis na nagbabantay doon. So, may level din ganun. Buti nga may nandun yung community, no, para makapag-abiso sa amin tungkol sa safety, regulation. So, ayun, sa part ko, yun yung
Yes.
napakagaling talaga. Malaman ng
Yeah,
discussion talaga.
correct. So very important po yun, no, sa mga nanonood nating fellow media practitioners, even mga journalism students na actually kahit students pa lang tayo, meron na tayong more or less na tinitake on na journalism practices para sa media coverage natin. So very important yung mga naibahagi ng ating speakers at isa sa mga main takeaways ko din doon, no, wag nating i-take for granted ang debriefing at magandang nagagawa yan na pa-practice collectively sa ating mga media colleagues, sa ating circles. Very important yan, especially ngayon wala tayong aasahan, kundi tayo-tayo lang na tumitindi yung atake at crackdown sa mga media practitioners.
Hindi naman hamak na napakahalaga ng mental health.
Correct. Kahit sa mga journalists. Alright. Okay, hindi pa po tapos ng ating discussions. Nagsisimula pa lamang at meron pa tayong isang part para sa ating program ngayong hapon. So again, thank you very much kay Sir JB at kay Ma'am Kath. So for the next part of our program for this afternoon, bibigyan naman tayo ng tips kung paano natin mapapanatili na safe ang ating mga digital spaces. So ito ay mula sa isang kilalang IT expert at consultant ng National Citizens Movement for Free Elections o Namfrel at National Computer Emergency Response Team Philippines o NCER. Please join us in welcoming Sir Lito Averia. Sir Lito, take it away po. Ayan, kasama pa po ba natin si Sir Lito? Alright.
Yes, I'm here. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, pleasure to be here, to be with you. So, yeah, I'll just go right off and
Yes, sir. Okay.
share my slides. Somebody allow me to share the slides.
Alright.
In a moment, sir. Thank you.
Yes po. Alright, so ngayon po ay inaayos ng ating technical team, no, yung pag-allow kay Sir sa ating next speaker, kay Sir Lito, to screen share. Meron siyang naihandang presentation para sa ating viewers. So habang inaayos po ng ating tech team, again, reminder sa lahat ng ating mga audiences sa ating Facebook Live at sa ating Zoom participants, ngayon pa lang ay mag-isip na po kayo ng mga possible questions na gusto nyong ibato sa ating speakers from the discussions na narinig natin. All sorts of questions, even practical questions, no, sa coverage. Kung may gusto kayong i-clarify, palalimin, o tingin nyo ay gusto nyo pang mas maintindihan na hindi na-cover masyado kanina sa discussions. Yes,
O baka may
yeah.
experiences kayong gusto ring maibahagi
Share,
sa
correct.
ating mga participants ngayon at sa mga nanonood live sa ating social media pages.
Alright. Sir Lito,
Yep.
okay na po?
Can you see my slide?
Yes po, yes.
Okay. Well, so I was asked to present something on digital security and safety for journalists specifically. Right? I just the tips and suggestions here, so I just put them together based on my experience and some, of course, some sources. So I divided the presentation into two parts: ensuring personal safety on the net, and then I'll talk about some suggestions for ensuring safety and security for journalists in our digital environment. First, of course, first tip, I'm pretty sure everybody maintains at least an email account or a social media account. So talk about passwords first. The password is used in tandem with the username. It's a string of characters that verify or used to verify the identity of the user. So of course, you use it to gain access to your device, application, or whatever. It may be a passphrase, which is a password that uses more than one word. And it works in the same way as your PIN code together with your ATM card, for example. The usual suggestion is to use a strong password, But what exactly is a strong password? Here are some characteristics. Some suggestions. Some suggest minimum 8 characters. Actually, when you sign on to a website, for example, these rules are applied. So if you specify a password less than 8 characters, you won't be able to get an account. Another suggestion is to include both upper and lowercase letters, at least one number, at least one special character. So it's a bit complicated to make it strong password. And of course, you have to avoid elements that will lead to somebody to guess your passwords, like using the names of your children, pet names, birthdays, the name of your pets. So, but following these suggestions, it could be very challenging to recall the password. So, personal tip ko is use events and dates. So, for example, the Taal volcano eruption on January 12, 2020. So, how do I set up a password using this? So, we have a total of more than 8 characters. The Taal volcano eruption. This can be longer by inserting the date in between words. And then, of course, replacing the letter A's with the @ sign. So this would need, and then, of course, you have already a mix of upper and lowercase letters. So this would make this particular password a lot stronger than any other password of a length of 8, just 8 characters. Another tip is do not use the same password for all your email and or social media accounts. So if you have multiple email and social media accounts, I suggest that you use a password manager, which is a program that allows you to store, generate, and manage your passwords. Using a password manager allows you to remember only your main password for the password manager. So the benefits are you don't have to memorize all your passwords. Basta, don't forget also to have your primary password to access your password manager. Password managers can also often generate highly secure passwords. So you can use a password manager to generate your password for you, so that you don't have to invent one for yourself. Password managers can also alert you to a phishing site. So I assume that you understand what phishing is. This is a scam
perpetrated, of course, by malevolent actors that will lead you to giving up some personal information that they can use against you. Another benefit is that when you pass on, it can be a form of digital inheritance, so that your relatives or your heirs can access your accounts if ever. Of course, password managers save time because you don't have to invent passwords each time that you need to change the password. A tip that I missed to include here is for you to change your passwords regularly. Many password managers sync across different operating systems. You may be a Windows user for your laptop, and you may be using Android or iOS for your cell phones. And password managers can sync across these different platforms. They can also help protect your identity in a roundabout manner. So you can search for free password managers. This is one example where you can explore. Another layer of security is what we call a two-factor authentication, or 2FA. This strengthens your security in a way that you'll be able to, or the system may be able to verify your actual identity, at least. So you may be familiar with what is called one-time token, no? That some banking transactions or some banks issue one-time pins to your cell phones, and these one-time pins are used in conjunction with your username and password combination for you to be able to approve certain transactions. Okay. So why do you need it? Because it's easier than you think for someone to steal your password. So they can there have been cases where sites have been accessed illegally, and the usernames and passwords were accessed by criminal elements. So a two-step verification system using 2FA will help avoid that. Now, one thing is that if you are maintaining multiple email accounts or multiple SOCMED accounts, so just think if you lose access to your accounts, and you lose access to everything in it. Okay. And of course, this can, your SOCMED accounts or email accounts can fall on the hands of the bad guys and go through your accounts. How it works, you still use your username password combination. Let's say, for example, if you're using Gmail as your email, you still need to enter your username and password. And then once you have this affected, the 2FA, it will ask for something else that is passed on to you either through your phone, via text, voice call, or a mobile app. This actually, you have to set up your account using your either any of your mobile phone or text and voice or the mobile app. Just to illustrate, so the first layer, if you look at the center layer, right, that will be your account data, your email, for example. And then, of course, the first layer there, which is the outer layer, is where you enter your username and password. And then the two-step verification, where you get another code, is what you use to access the second layer. Once you access you specify the code to the second layer, then you'd be able to gain access to your data. So this two-step verification will protect your account with something you know, which is your password, and something that you have, your phone plus the security key or the security code that is passed on to you. And that security code is unique for that particular access. The verification codes are made just for you. So it's unique to yourself and unique to that instance when you are accessing your account. Another suggestion is to secure your connections. VPN or the virtual private network is an anonymity enabler. It gives you online privacy and anonymity by creating a private network from a public internet connection. So parang it's creating another tunnel when you access the internet, and that tunnel is only for your use. So VPN hides your browsing history, your IP address and location, your location for streaming services, your devices, as well as your web activities. So in your activities on the net, you have to think before you click. Be careful what you post. No? Kasi may resibo parate sa internet. We've seen those. No? The recent news that I saw this morning is that, for example, the false news about a daughter of Lenny Robredo being revived or having resurfaced, no, on the news. That news was like 2 or 3 years old. So there's resibo on the net. So be careful what you post, because you might want there's something that you wouldn't want others to see or regret at some future time. Keep your devices, operating system, and applications updated. If you're a Windows user, there is what we call Update Tuesdays. If you're an iOS user for your mobile phones, you get notices that there would be updates. So keep your operating system and applications updated when you get those notices. Another suggestion for you to keep yourself safe and secure while using the internet is to use anti-malware and keep it updated. You have to protect your personal information. Limit the personal information that you post and keep it professional. You would recall the Vivares case. So I don't know if everybody recalls the Vivares case against St. Teresa's College in Cebu. This was a case of a student who had gone out on the beach wearing bikinis and holding a bottle of beer, no, on one hand, and then she had a cigarette on the other. And the school took disciplinary action. I think she was being prevented from graduating, and the parents filed a case against the school. Eventually, the Supreme Court said that you lose privacy when you post on social media. Protect your privacy by keeping your privacy settings on your social media accounts. So you have to learn how to set your privacy settings in your favorite internet browsers or social media or social network applications, and even your email. Do not just download anything. Free software that you download might actually be a malware. So really, in the internet, nothing is for free. Even the services that you use is not for free, because the internet or the providers gather your personal information as you surf the net. Browse safely, avoid dubious content. Again, dubious content can also be accompanied with malware. If you do online shopping, watch where you shop. Not all websites are equal. You have to make sure that the website, the shopping site that you use, starts with HTTPS, as opposed to a site that starts with HTTP. S here means secure. Another practice that I do is to cover my laptop or phone camera with a piece of tape, or if you have the carbon black gadget that you stick over the camera, you can use those as well, because you don't know who is snooping around. You don't know if your device might have been infected by rat or remote access Trojan, which enables a third party to control your device and maybe open up your camera or your device's mic while he is snooping. Then, of course, keep it separate. Use separate email and or social media accounts for personal life and your business or public life. So I'll jump on to the second part of my presentation, your safety as a journalist. So in 2018, this headline came out on Rappler. So let's talk about DDoS attacks. So what is DDoS or DOS? A denial of service attack is an attack meant to shut down a machine or network. It renders an attack that renders your server or your website inaccessible by flooding the target, your server or your website with traffic. And then there's a specific type of a DOS attack, which is DDoS. Ito yung nasa headline. The key difference is that the attack comes from multiple sources. It utilizes, it's same as DOS, but DDoS utilizes compromised computers that we call bots or botnet. So DDoS can be launched from 100, 1,000, or maybe more sources. Then just this June, this news came out. The military, the OST links found in DDoS attacks on media. Right, again, on Rappler. And I'm quoting some lines from the news. So, Curium found at least 5 attacks against the 3 groups. This is Bulatlat, Karapatan, and another one. So they used the attacker used several means to verify whether the attacks were successful. So it could be a DDoS attack. And then there was a vulnerability scan. So what is a vulnerability scan? The vulnerability assessment is a tool used by information security professionals, often encompassing vulnerability scanning, which is designed to identify, classify, and address security risks. We use this for identifying weaknesses or vulnerabilities in servers, applications, websites, and a host of others. And another item in that news mentions pen testing. So what is penetration test? It's actually once you discover a weakness or a vulnerability, you do penetration testing using some tools to exploit the vulnerabilities that you found in the infrastructure. So would that DDoS activity plus the vulnerability assessment and pen test constitute digital surveillance? So somebody's watching, well, as the headline showed, the DFP looks like doing digital surveillance. VAPT is a process often conducted with software done by security professionals to look for weaknesses. Having discovered the weaknesses, we design solutions in order to fix the vulnerabilities and strengthen the security posture. But in this case, in the case of the report, the VAPT was done to gain unauthorized access. VAPT is usually done with the appropriate authorization from the owners of the application or the server or the website. So in the reported case, VAPT was used in an attempt to gain unauthorized access to the owner's system. Some suggestions. In any incident, you have to be ready to respond. Now, in this case, in the case of a DDoS, you have to develop a DDoS response plan by taking stock of your system assets, what the components, the applications that are in your system. Of course, you have to form a DDoS response team and develop your response procedure. And then, of course, you have to define notification and escalation procedures and develop call trees for notification purposes. So you have to be ready to respond, no, in order to recover. The goal of the DDoS response plan is to recover your operations at the shortest time possible. Secure your infrastructure, firewalls, intrusion prevention systems, intrusion detection systems should be in place. Use your virtual private network solutions. You can use content filtering, and of course, you have to have your anti-malware and anti-spam. And make sure all your software, your operating system, your applications, your websites is up to date. One suggestion that I used to make is to increase bandwidth, but we all know that bandwidth is very expensive. Today we have the cloud, so you can leverage on the cloud because the cloud has a lot more bandwidth. And then, of course, know your traffic. By knowing your traffic, I mean you have to do some monitoring of the network traffic. This will allow you to identify users, IP addresses, or host names. So what do you do with this? Well, monitoring the traffic, like I said, you identify unwanted IPs or internet protocol addresses, and then you can block those unwanted IPs. Fix vulnerabilities in your system, using, of course, VAPT or vulnerability assessment and penetration testing tools, and fix those vulnerabilities. You can subscribe to anti-DDoS services like Cloudflare. We at Namfrel were actually DDoS this June. We were developing our website, thevoteforus.org.ph, and somebody DDoSed us. Now our solution was to subscribe to Cloudflare. It's expensive, but we had to do it because we're preparing for the elections. I told the Namfrel team I'm sure we'll be able to find some funds and allocate some funds for this. In the meantime, we had collected the log information. We're sifting through the log information, identifying the IP addresses and the host names, in the hope that these IP addresses and host names will lead us to the identity of the perpetrator. Of course, that's part of our response. And for your own safety individually, safety and security on the net, I give myself as an example. I was under surveillance about 10 years ago. This was during the elections of 2013. So I had to take counter-surveillance measures. I became increasingly aware of my surroundings, and I learned to take evasive measures. So I'm pretty sure with seminars and training, you might have taken these actions already. Your mobile phones keep you connected to your family, colleagues, and the rest of the world. But it is a device that can be tracked. So if you use smartphones, they have a lot more features in them. It's like a mini computer, small computer. You can do even your editing using your smartphones. But it is equipped with a GPS. A feature phone, on the other hand, has minimal features. Okay, and it's not equipped with GPS. Although feature phones can still be tracked, but its accuracy is up to the radius or the coverage of a cell site, a cell tower. So for more accurate tracking of a feature phone, you need multiple cell sites to even come maybe to within 10 meters. But a GPS is maybe an accurate, GPS signal may be accurate to a few feet. So mas madaling matrack yung cell phone. So I would suggest that you turn off the GPS whenever you use your smartphones. No? Better yet, I do use a feature phone and a smartphone, no, for different purposes. Then you are facing social media threats through social media, email, SMS, and text. No? And then, of course, the trolls, and of course, red tagging. I do not have specific solutions to this, but with this, learning from that DDoS attack, part of our response is, of course, document everything, try to download, see every message that comes to your phone has what we call a metadata. Those metadata can be downloaded. Every time you access a website,